Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Creative Conversations, Creative Collaborations Conversation with Veronica and Jillian. And my name is Veronica, and I'm here with Jillian.
Hello.
And hey, and today we're gonna talk about us, very ecocentric. But the topic will not be really about us, but actually it will be about our businesses and how we became entrepreneurs, and maybe a little bit the mentality and how we perceive this. So, but maybe first we do want to introduce something different to our podcast. So we came up with this idea to share with you a fun fact about us. So you're gonna get a chance to know us better. So how about Jillian? You start. You go first, and you share something.
Sure. So fun fact is I started my first business when I was 22, just a couple of years ago, like 20 plus years ago. But actually the fun part of it is not that I was starting my first business at 22. The fun part is that it was an internet marketing business. And this was, if you can remember, way back when most people were afraid to put their credit card on the internet. So it was like the very beginning of online shopping. I remember when all of those, that was starting off, the first round of manufacturers that were starting to sell their products online, and the first round of companies and retailers who were, kind of dipping their toes in. And so I spent time trying to educate consumers about, what this crazy thing called the World Wide Web and internet shopping was all about. So, yeah, internet marketing, that was all the rage, and it was like, let's see here, 2000 or 2001, right around there is when I started my first business. So that's a little bit fun-ish, but that's a fact about me. How about you?
I was actually thinking to share something else, but what you shared just triggered a memory, because my first official business that I launched was an e-commerce platform, not as early as you, but quite early, and was an e-commerce platform selling French designer clothes in Romania. I'm Romanian, by the way. That's another fun fact.
Yes.
And it was a little bit easier because people. Okay, so East Europe is slightly different than US, so the mentality is different. Things are moving slower, let's say, in terms of technology at that point, coming and buying. But we were between the first ones launching it. And I think that was also after like during that, I think it was before that, actually. I did my master and then I launched this on my master in marketing. But it was a little bit like you're educating people that it's safe to buy online and how to do this. And also how to introduce the idea that you don't need to be a model. You don't need to be the slimmest or the most beautiful one to be there. So we were doing different things, doing photo shoot with our clients, actually. But the fun part was that we had the e-commerce. We were putting a lot of money, including in advertising, because then it was Google Ads. It was quite at the beginning. So nobody knew for sure what the heck is happening. And we were just needing money, to be honest. It wasn't the best investment. I did it at that point. But what we used to do was doing photo shoots with our clients to the new collection. And besides the shop, the e-commerce shop, we also had the physical concept store, a very small one in a cosmetic salon. So ladies were going there to have their hair cut, to have their manicure, pedicure, everything related to facials and things like that. But of course, you have a lot of time that you need to wait, like lost time that you need to spend in that salon when you're right. And I was thinking like, hey, how about we have a room here where you can go. Of course, it was where I was going as well. So this why it was easy to go. So it was, how about while you're waiting for the dye to be done or whatever you had to go, to come and view clothes. The fun fact was that we were selling more offline while we were selling online, and we were posting the pictures, taking the pictures, and until people had the time to buy them, we were selling to these ladies that were just at the salon. Because it was also personal. We were closing the shop. I say, try everything. And let me tell you, if you give a woman a whole shop to try on, they will leave with a lot of clothes, and it's fun. And they got also personal advice, how to dress, what it suits them, or showing them how they can dress. So of course you're gonna buy. The problem was we were spending money and time doing the photo shoot, uploading everything, and then overnight we were selling in the shop, and we had a big issue. So that's the fun part. So not the best planning now, thinking about it. Maybe more merchandise should have been better or something. But yeah, we do need to learn.
So I love that you just use that as an example, because you just reminded me of somebody I haven't thought about in many years, a woman that a very successful businesswoman that I met 20 years ago. Geez. And she had a clothing, like a trunk line. So she was doing trunk shows with like this really very nice clothing line that was only available through these trunks, like really very nice clothing. And she is so great. And so I've tried really hard to maintain my relationships over the years, but it's a bummer when there's one that I remember I haven't done a great job of following up with. So thanks for the reminder, and like put a tally. Okay, so note to self, I need to follow up with her and see how she's doing. It's been a few years, so thank you for reminding me of her. I need to follow up with her. So anyhow, thank you for that.
And for our listeners, this is how you maintain business relationships. Everything we're going to trigger a memory, but you do need to act. And I think that's actually the secret, because we're all going to remember or say, oh, I need to do that. But the core of it is, do you actually follow up with it, and how do you follow up with it? And I do know I'm guilty of not following properly sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to do. And I think that's a great segue. I'm just going to share a quick tool, because I love tools. I read a lot. I'm always looking for new ways to think about things, or new or better ways to do things. And so I'm just going to share my quick, I guess it's like tool of the week kind of thing, or tool of the show, whatever. But it's exactly along the lines that you're talking about. So I found, again, through networking and through having conversations with other business owners, I found out about this great AI tool that you can use. Well, I use it as like a plugin, more or less, for my Zoom account. And it's an AI tool that takes notes for me. It does the transcriptions, and it does meeting recaps, and it's wildly helpful. It's called Fireflies, by the way. It's an app called Firefly. So you can check it out, and should be able to add it to your, I guess it's added to Chrome or whatever. Download it. It's very simple. And the free version is amazing. I ended up paying for the other version because it was so good. But in any case, I use it specifically for that. And so most of my meetings are via Zoom. And so there's always things that come up, action items and whatnot, like I just mentioned. So when I get the transcripts, I can just quickly do a search and then find all of my action items. It actually can also isolate the action items too. But so Fireflies is a great tool if anybody is doing online meetings. It's a great way to recap and to capture all the action items, so they don't dissolve after the meeting is over. So
that's a good one.
What I have.
I do know. Thank you for that. I do know there's another one, Author, that basically does the same thing. I will not be able to tell you which one is better, and I'm guilty of. I know about both of them, and a lot of people around me using them, but I haven't used any. I'm quite old-fashioned from this perspective, because I don't know, for the listeners, they will not see, but the people that are watching us on YouTube, they will see I have several notebooks with me here, and each is serving a purpose. And I find it, for my style, that it's easier to actually take notes. The moment I'm writing it, I remember it. But of course, we all are different, and our brains are working differently. What I do love, and what will kind of makes me want to maybe at least test it, the Firefly, for example, or the Author, is the fact that I can already in the call or in the script do actionable things. So for example, already add it to my calendar, for example, and that will make it easy, because the notes are great when I have to write a proposal, remember what happened, or I had a meeting with a client and I need to take action or create something. So that's brilliant. But sometimes we do forget, like, oh, I just need to reach out to that person to say hello or to see what is happening. And that's
yes. I actually used it recently. I had a meeting with a prospect, referral prospect call with an engineer. and the vocabulary and the subject matter was quite dense. And so it occurred to me, wow, I can either be taking copious notes or I can be present in the conversation. I'm like, I really need to be present in this conversation, and it's rolling. And so it's like, so I decided, like, let me do that. And I thought, this was when I first started using this tool. And I was so thrilled afterwards. I can't even tell you. It was like a great meeting. It was like 50 minutes or something. And I thought, wow, that was amazing. And then it was like, how would I describe what that was about? Like, where do I even start? And so I jumped in to have a look at the meeting recap, and I read it. I'm like, wow, what an amazing meeting that just was. So it was really helpful for me because it captured all the details, all the references, the acronyms, all the language that came up that I was somewhat or maybe not at all familiar with. Some of it, it captured all of it. So I didn't have to write that all down, and I was able to be present in the meeting. So it was really helpful. So anyways, this is not intended to be a commercial for, but I just think it's great. Anytime we can use, I think for me, anytime we can kind of employ a tool or technology that'll make things run smoother, be better, or in this case, increase the experience, I'm a fan of it. So I feel like the experience of the conversation was better because I was present and not taking notes on the side. But just while we're at it, I too love notebooks. But this is it's
a different.
It's a whiteboard.
The one that
notebook.
you can erase.
Yeah. So
that's
it's
also
like,
nice.
It's one of my favorite little. I don't know if it's actually a gadget. Would it be considered a gadget? I don't know. It's one of my little
I would say
favorite
so.
things. Yeah, this one is. Anyway, you can write on it and erase it. It's amazing. But the best part is you can take photos. So I'm doing two. Here we go. You can take photos of it and upload it to your Google Drive. So I use the same notebook when I go to events. I sketch down some notes, can take a photo, and send it to whatever Drive folder I choose. And there's several on the market. There's one version through Amazon. It's called the Rocketbook, and this one is Bamboo, I guess it's called.
Bamboo.
But yeah, Bamboo. The reason I chose this one is because in the app, which this is another thing I have since learned, probably everybody else knows this and I'm late to the game. But if you look in the apps, I was trying to compare, like reading reviews and whatnot, trying to figure out which one should I get. And then I discovered that in the Rocketbook, there's a whole section on what data they're basically siphoning from me. Whereas this one they are not doing that. They're not storing any of my data. So that made the decision quite easy. And so now I have the Bamboo and not the Rocketbook. So that may have changed since this was a little bit ago. Yeah.
But I think that's a good advice to follow. Like, really make sure, especially when it comes to private data and you're placing them in such a public way, in one way, even if it's your own, who else has access to it? And I think that will be a great way to move towards the business side, because these are definitely great advices for businesses. But also important is, how do you protect your data and what do you do with it? Mm-hmm. So always read the fine print.
Yes. No, I think that's a really important topic to circle back to. I think especially with GDPR, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like that topic about data security and customer or client privacy, et cetera, I feel like that's a really kind of a prudent conversation for us to have in the coming weeks. So here we go.
And I think
Fireflies, make a note.
Yeah, please. Yeah, and I think I know who we can have. I do know several lawyers active in this area, so maybe it will be great to have one of them invited as a guest speaker.
Great.
And just
great.
So we already have a topic for the next one, but let's go back to
ready to roll
of today.
Yeah, no. So you started mentioning earlier about your first business. So if you're keen, I'm quite interested to hear your kind of evolution from that, and really how you got set up with Spin Ideas. Just to share a little bit about that, what your story was.
Actually, that was my first business, but wasn't my first business idea. So I used to, like everyone else, work for several companies, including a corporate. I don't think I ever met an entrepreneur that didn't have at least 1 year, if not more, experience working in a corporate. So I'm curious to meet the ones that didn't.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's an age thing. For us, that was the trend. First get the corporate, and then you go and do that. But the first business idea, and I didn't even knew at that point that's entrepreneurship, was I was buying quite a lot of presents for, I was working at Siemens, so I was the assistant manager of a department, and I was always buying presents, birthday presents for the department. And I was pretty good at them because I knew the people, and I had the relationship with them. So I knew what they want, like, not like, and I was always trying to do something very personalized. And my first business idea was actually to create a process in which people can, a lot of people don't know how to buy presents. That's a reality. So they could actually send me a brief of this is the person I need to buy a present for, me to present 3 options. They choose, we buy one, we send it, and everyone is happy, including the receiver of the present. And I think why I share this, because the idea of what is important to me is actually according to the values, and always putting the person at the center of every business and everything that you do. And I realized that actually this is something that is from the beginning, is not something that just developed, but is something very dear to me, and something that drives me in everything that I do. So with that in mind, I went and I had my first business that was the Darida. That doesn't mean anything, but has 2 in Romanian. Yes, it's da. So you have 2 affirmative in the name. It was very positive and had a nice ring to it. So there again, the customer, actually the client was at the center. I said, actually the client was the one posting. We did fashion shows with the clients, not professional models. We were trying to make it as real as possible. And moving to the Netherlands, you moved a couple of years ago, and I think you experienced the same. Like especially after you have a business and you have a network and you have your family to support you, you get to a country where, honestly, I knew besides my ex-partner that I was living, just one person. And I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
What should I do? Where do I need to start?
I
do remember I moved in August. In Romania, August is the hottest month of the year. And here was raining and was cold. Like I was wearing my autumn clothes. And I was like, okay, it's raining. I'm just going to wait until tomorrow to go and explore the city. And the second day was raining again, and the third day and the fourth day. And after 2 weeks, I said, I think I just need to get out of the house because I'm not sure the rain will ever stop. So everything is totally different. So I decided to actually get a job just to figure it out. What the heck is happening? What's the culture? How are the people? Especially that I still had the business back home, and my initial thought was, I'm just going to bring it here. But what is very important to understand is your audience. So going and getting to know people, and first I got the job was to really understand that culture and way of running business here is different. So after having realized that, I decided to get a job and to figure it out what is happening and create a network. And this is what I did for almost 6 years when I said it's time to stop and just work for myself. And this is when actually Spin Ideas was created. And it was very organic because the moment I left, I used to work for a media agency. The moment I left, I sent an email to all my clients, former clients, and they were quite a lot, and international, saying, thank you, and let's be in touch. And the response to that email was very, very, very great, and actually very emotional, because a lot of them met with me and they said, I still want to work with you. And they were, honestly, I started my business, and my business was created based on those phone calls and coffees, because I realized what they need. And that was marketing, and not only marketing, because there are so many companies offering marketing services, but the strategy, the structure to guide them, and to have a process, basically. And this is how Spin Ideas was created, beginning of 2017. And of course, if I look at the first marketing campaign I created, like the first marketing strategy I created, then with what I'm delivering now, it's a big journey. And we develop processes and methodologies and things like that. But basically, this is how it started, by listening to what people needed. How about you? Because I do know you are involved a lot around everything that you do is around people and also processes and procedures. So, and I do love the fact that you are a B Corp consultant.
Yeah.
So that maybe it'll be interesting for our listeners to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I feel like the B Corp consultant is like the cherry on top of everything I have been working for 20, almost 25 years. But I can't help myself. I have to go back to one thing quickly. Because when you were talking about your business idea back with the giving gifts and such, I have to ask, do you know the Gift Guild here in the Netherlands, Ava? So
I must say I don't.
So I have introduced her to ONS. I'm not sure if she has attended yet, but I think the ONS network is a great kind of resource for her, and I think she could add a lot of value. So she is building the Gift Guild in the Netherlands. So just a quick side note, I had to bring that up. So you mentioned that. Another thing you said reminded me, I have to just mention this, ironic, about both of us having that shared experience of leaving our home countries where our business, our family, our networks are, and then moving to the Netherlands. It's funny, I'm kind of having one of those like full circle moments. It just occurred to me that many years ago, I think, I don't know, it's like 2016, 15, somewhere around there, I was interviewed on the Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast with John Lee Dumas. And at the end of my episode, he asked, it's like I think that kind of question, if you were, dropped somewhere you had never been before or something to that effect, what would you do? And in all of my wisdom in 2016, I said that, if you were given $500 and you didn't know anybody, where would you start? And I said, I would go to a cafe and, buy somebody coffee and start having conversations. And lo and behold, look at that. All of these years later, however many years later, because I think we actually met in 2022. So call it 6 years later, Here I am in a community where I don't really know anybody. And I find myself at a cafe buying you a coffee. And so I feel like, look at that full circle moment. It did actually happen. So anyways, I had to share that.
Goosebumps. That's a beautiful story.
I know. It's like, oh my gosh, look at what happened. So be careful what we say. And sometimes it can come true. But anyhow, so just to jump in and add a little bit more context about my business journey, I'll do it in a kind of consolidated fashion here. So and you had also mentioned the corporate situation. So that's true. I would say I never really had a corporate job. The last time I guess my last job, right? My second to last job was for a giant company, a giant private company at the time. And I was doing my thing and they offered me a corporate sales position. I was 19 or 20, and I would have been the youngest person in their very large company, the youngest person in the company's history to be in a corporate sales role. And it was very shiny. It was very compelling. But at the time, I was also coaching inner city girls basketball, and I was a literacy volunteer and doing things that actually mattered more to me. And so my first thought was, if I go do this big fancy corporate gig, I will make a lot of money and it'll look really great, but I won't have the time to do all of these other things that matter so much to me. So I decided to not take this fancy job and just to continue on my own path. And within a few months or within a year, I learned about Robert Kiyosaki, who was being interviewed on the Oprah show. This is back when Oprah still had her TV show. I feel like, has it been gone long enough to say that shows how old I am? I'm not sure, but that might be starting to happen. Anyway, so he was being interviewed by Oprah, and as he was talking, it just like resonated with me. And within a few, just timing happened. He apparently, now I realize, he was probably on a book tour. And then his book tour brought him to my city. And so I was able to go to his book event and meet him and have a brief conversation with him, photo op and whatnot. And so that was part of my business education at, it's like 20 years old or something. And I read the cash flow quadrant. And that was a major influence on how I viewed what opportunities and what limitations there were for me as in my career. So that set the stage, and I started my first business shortly thereafter. And then for about that first 10 years, I would say from around 1920, for those first several years, I didn't have much to offer in the way of like this, business acumen and education and experience, or like much at all. So I just began building relationships by focusing on other people. And I did a lot of things over the years, but in effect, that network started to grow and grow. And then I guess the best way to say it is in 2013 or so, that's when the universe decided, okay, it's time for you to start your consulting agency. And suddenly the relationships that I had been building over many, many years just started to reach out to me for help with things in the way of technology tools and building relationships. So I started my agency at that time without really knowing I was starting an agency. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have any of the conventional things that you typically would think about having in place before starting a business. I just started receiving referrals and just figuring it out. And next thing I know, it was like a fire hose happened. And within 12 months, I had 30 people on my team, and I had it's like we maxed out at like 15 clients on retainer, and it grew to 40 people on the team, and it was madness. I was literally putting the bicycle together as we were pedaling. And so it grew very, very fast. And every piece of business that I've ever done, every piece of business I've received has come through relationships, AKA referrals, or else they, met me in a Starbucks or something like that. So it's all been that. And and over the years, my agency, like you mentioned, I started off really more so in the marketing world, kind of outsource marketing for companies and healthcare, tech, finance, et cetera. And then we added kind of management consulting and process. So we did a lot of process, basically helping customers or helping clients to address the holes in their buckets. Like if you're getting a lot of leads and they're not closing, or if they're getting a lot of leads and having difficulty with staff, et cetera, then it's not working still. So we implemented process management. And then this cherry on top is this last iteration, which is embracing sustainability as a strategy, and then becoming a B Corp consultant. And currently in the process of certifying my company as a B Corp as well. So it's been quite a journey, quite a process, but you mentioned it, and it's very true for me. At the core of my business has always been relationships. So I've never, I've always focused on listening to people and what it is that they need. And this includes clients, and often clients are puzzled by it because I'm not trying to push my products or services. I'm not trying to feel like I have nothing to sell. What it is that what do you need? And let's find the people or resources to help you. If that happens to be myself or my team, then great. But if it's not, then that's fine. Because I just can't do something for a client or sell them something if I don't feel in my gut that it's the right thing for them. I just can't do it. So for better or worse, that's what I do. And so, so I feel like that's a good place to put a period on the end of my run-on sentence here. But yeah, that's a bit about me and how I got, started in business. And it's been a lot of years, and I have the white hairs to prove it.
I just put highlights to hide them. But I actually wanted to jump into what you said, because I can relate to that. And I think this is why we are such a good match for this. First of all, the base conference that brought us together in one way was launched because of what you just said. And when the company started growing, and I experienced the same, it's one thing when you're alone, one thing when you have 5 people. When you start growing and you have bigger projects, let's be honest, is overwhelming. And a lot of
Yeah.
times you are sitting and say, what am I doing? What do I need to do? How do I put that fire off? And it's about knowledge. And the base conference, the purpose of base conference was for people in that situation, even if you're growing it by 2 people or by 10 people, the core of it is the same. You do need the processes in place. You do need the right network. You do need to know who do you need to bring, who do you need to fire, what do you need to do, who was the client you need to say yes to, and was the client you need to say no to. And it's very hard. And I was in that position, and it's so scary. That's the reality. But the purpose of the base, and also the community that I have and what we do, because I feel like we are working the same, but we do have different type of clients though, is not to feel so alone, and to learn from your community and your network. And that's also one of the purposes of our podcast. Let's learn from us and share your knowledge with us, so we make it easy for all of us. This episode, I think it was, I think we can stay for 1 more hour and chat, but
I know.
We do need to put that thought, as you said, at the end. Well, I hope our listeners will have a better understanding of who we are and where we stand. And I'm so excited about our next episode.
Yeah, I know. We're going to talk about, next time we'll talk about specifically how relationships have influenced our business. Very specifically with actual tangible examples, etc. Because I think it's a topic I know a lot of people are interested in, but it can be challenging for people to think about, okay, well, what do I do? Like, how do I do that? Where do I start? So I think that we both have, I bet, some similar practices or some similar approaches, but I'm also sure that I'm going to be able to learn from you as well. So we'll pick that conversation up next time. But for now,
exactly, we're going to pick it, and it's part of running business, and you do need clients in order to do that. But as you said, this is a discussion for next time. So stay tuned. Thank you for listening in, and see you next time.
See you later.